In this video, I'm going to show you how to burn holes in your landscape fabric to get the most out of it for controlling your weeds and keeping invasive grass out of your garden. High-end landscape fabric is a weave of plastic, so it goes like this. And if you cut it, it just starts to unfray and fall apart. So burning it not only cuts the pattern in it that you want to plant in, but it also seals it up around the outside so that it doesn't run on you and, you know, destroy your entire fabric. To burn the holes, we use a tiger torch. So basically what we have is like something to light the tiger torch with, the tiger torch itself, a wrench for tightening it on the propane tank, and then we've already got it laid out here, but there's a long tape measure that we use so that we can just kind of eyeball our pattern. When we first tried to do the burning the holes in the landscape fabric thing, I drilled out this, you know, piece of OSB and like measured everything perfectly, and we went to use it, and it was really hard to get everything to kind of line up right. I know I've seen people who have been more successful with these patterns than we were, but in our opinion, it's garbage!
When we use the tiger torch, we're not actually burning a hole into the fabric. What we're doing is we're using a really low flame, and then it's heating up the metal, and this ring is getting really hot, and then when we touch it to the plastic, it's actually just melting the circle. This here is the perfect example. It hasn't melted all the way across, but you can see that the circle is basically just cut out. So the heat of the flame heating the metal, melting out the circle when it touches. The heat of the flame can really quickly burn and melt out your plastic. This is one of the very first pieces of landscape fabric that we burnt, and you can see all these massive holes. What was actually happening here was, as we were trying to melt the holes, it was almost like the plastic was catching on fire and it was spreading the way, you know, like a grass fire would spread. So one of the ways that we've found to keep this whole system a lot easier to control is to do it on a day like this, a day when there's lots of moisture in the ground, there's some moisture on the plastic. That just keeps the flame and the heat a little bit more under control. Obviously, we don't always get rainy days here, especially in Kelowna. They're very rare. So the way that we actually deal with this is we will water the plastic before we go and burn the holes. You know, we'll take the hose and we'll actually water down the area that we're about to work on. Because we're using more of the heat than the flame when we actually are melting the holes into the plastic, we found that it's a lot more under control and manageable and efficient if we do it as quickly as possible. Another reason why that stencil frame form thing didn't work is it took so much time to line up the tiger torch to the exact hole on the frame that you could completely burn out the plastic underneath even before you get it in. It's hard to go quickly enough. So what we've done instead is we have a tape measure, we lay it down along the plastic, and then the plastic actually has measurement lines for every foot on it. So what we do is we just eyeball it, and that way, you know, I can just quickly tap this. I don't have to be worrying about, you know, getting in the exact same spot. I just quickly do it, quickly melt it out, and that keeps us from, you know, lighting our plastic on fire and making a big mess most of the time. We always do this with 2 people because of safety. We are working with basically a flamethrower and a propane tank, so you could blow yourself up.
Well, you're not gonna blow yourself up, but you can start a fire.
You could start a fire. Very bad things could happen. So when we do this, I burn the holes. I'm focused on burning the holes.
And then I keep the tank and the hose out of the way.
Yeah. So we advise you be very, very safe and very cautious when you are working with flames and fire. 2 people.
And then for starting the tiger torch, because you're obviously outside doing it, It's a pain in the butt to have one of the normal cheapo torches. So I recommend getting the ones that start with a trigger, even though, there we go. That's still way easier than the alternative of using one of those clicker things. So the order of operations is open up your big propane tank, get your little one on fire. There you go.
Is this pointing away from the
And then point the flame in. And usually you have to let this metal end get hot before you're actually able to cut through stuff. If you just went with the flame, you just end up melting all the plastic. It's, you know, this end piece that has to get like the hot.
And my part is that I first turn on the tiger torch and then I turn it down as much as possible.
Yeah.
I basically use this on the setting that is
it's almost
blowing out because
Yeah.
I want the flame to actually stay inside of the torch. When it gets out, then it starts to risk burning the plastic
Yeah.
instead of just heating up the metal to melt the plastic.
And that's why it's handy to have one of these auto start things, because you continuously are putting the flame out, you know.
Yeah. And also, when you stick this into the ground, it can smother the flame because I'm stabbing it into the dirt. So it's, you know, it's like dumping a bucket of dirt on a fire. It can smother out the flame.
Yeah. Good to go? Should we get started?
Let's do this. Okay. Ready?
I'm always ready. We'll have links down below for everything that we used in this video. Now you know everything we know about burning holes in plastic. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and do it!